Good morning. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Better Call Kent. My name is Kent Hunter. I'm a real estate broker in North Carolina, licensed real estate broker. And I've got clients that come into my office occasionally and ask questions. And so some of my friends around town always say, if you got a real estate question, you better call Kent. So I'm going to name the channel Better Call Kent. So anyways, I'm going to call this client Mr. David. Mr. David came in a couple days ago, and he's been looking for a townhome for his mother, his aging mother. So he wants something close to where he works. He wants something in a very specific location. And Mr. David's even narrowed it down to the exact property that she wants. She's identified she wants this property. So his question was, Kent, should I hire you to go and knock on that door and see if those people are willing to sell their townhome? Well, my advice always in real estate world, when somebody calls me and says, hey, will you go find out if they want to sell that property when it's not even for sale? I mean, if it's not for sale, what are we doing? I mean, you know, if you're going to buy a property, if you want to buy a property that's not for sale and you're trying to buy it, they are going to want extra money for that. So the concern always the concern for me is if you hire a real estate broker to go and knock on that door to say, how much would you sell it for? Guess what? That seller, that owner of that house is going to want way more money than you ever dreamed of to sell that property. Because when they see us as licensed real estate brokers, then they assume that they assume the price is going to go up, that we've got somebody that just really is ready to overpay for their property. So the concern of mine always is if I, as a real estate broker, start the conversation, you as the buyer will end up paying too much or way over market value for that piece of property. So Mr. David said, well, then what do I do? I said, do you know a neighbor? Is there a neighbor that you or your mother knows in that neighborhood that you can go talk to that might know that property owner? And Mr. David said, absolutely. We know the people that live two houses away. And I said, well, have you talked to them? He said, no, I haven't. And I said, go talk to those neighbors first. And then see if that neighbor has any indication that those people would like to sell their property. He said, okay, so he's going to try that. I said, but then if that neighbor 2 doors down can go and speak for you, that would be a good way to do it. That's another good way of trying to get the communication going. I said, but your last ditch effort is going to be knocking on the door yourself. Because once you knock on that door, and I will just use hypothetical numbers. Let's say the property is worth $300,000. I mean, in my professional opinion, I've run comps on it. I've given Mr. David comps, and he understands what the property is worth. Then Mr. David knocks on the door and says, hey, homeowner, my mother is very interested and she has cash money to purchase your house. What would you sell it for? And so the point is, you need the seller, you need the owner of the property to tell you what they want for the property before you start throwing out numbers. Because once you throw a number out, they're going to go higher than what your number is. Even if Mr. David went in and said, you know, I know it's worth 300, we'll give you 350. most sellers, most property owners, if they would even consider that, they're going to go up to 400 or 425 or 450, because if you'll pay that dollar amount, they can afford to move. Because right now, face it, it's not the best time for people to be moving around because prices are high everywhere, and they're going to be that way for forever. So point is, this seller, they've got to have the money to go find another place that they would like to live. Maybe they're in their later years of their life and they don't have the strength or the ability to get, maybe they're more using a walker or in a wheelchair or something, and it's hard for them. It would be very difficult for them to move. So be very careful knocking on that door of that property owner. But most of all, consult with a local real estate broker in your area what the property may or may not be worth. And then your real estate broker, by licensing law, has to give you comps to what they feel like that it's worth. Then you can go and try to negotiate with that seller. So Mr. David left my office, and he said he was headed down there right now to talk to the neighbor 2 doors down about it. And then he was going to maybe even knock on the door that day. Now, I've not heard back from Mr. David about what's going on or how much he got the house for, or even if he got it, or even if the sellers were willing to do this. But the basics of this message and this advice is, when you identify a property that you desperately want, one is you try to find neighbors that know the person that owns the property. That's your best way to get in to find out the information to see if they even want to sell their property. 2 is consult with a local real estate broker that knows the market well enough that can run you some comps and help you understand what the true value, what that broker probably would be willing to list the property for sale. And it gives you more information to talk about. Also, if you do end up knocking on the door, don't be offensive, don't be forceful, don't press them, because your excitement that they even answered the door and now you're face to face with them, your excitement in the opportunity to buy their property is going to show on your face, and you're going to end up paying more for it. So then Mr. David asked me the last question before he walked out the door. He said, if my mother is willing to pay $100,000 more than you're saying the property's worth, Kent, is that okay? Now, this gets into real estate ethics and advice situation for real estate brokers. So I advised Mr. David that that's totally between him and his mother and the seller of that property. If she decides that she wants to spend that money, it's got to be her choice. It cannot come from me, real estate broker, because my ethical codes have to remain as openly transparent as I can. If I told Mr. David the property's worth $300,000 and his mother's willing to spend $400,000, that is not good advice that a real estate broker should be telling someone. But if the family, if Mr. David and his mother and his siblings and whoever's involved so chooses to do that, and the seller agrees to accept $400,000, then it's okay. It's okay, because she's probably going to live the remainder of her days in that location. And then when she passes on to heaven and the better life, then, the family is, Mr. David and his siblings are the ones that are going to have to deal with the overpricing. They may lose money or they may make money. There's no way to know. And real estate's always a gamble. So, but if your loved one, if your mother, your father, identifies a certain location that they really, really want to live in, I can tell you right now, if they have the money and they are willing to do it and they understand what they're doing and you are okay with them moving in that location, their health a lot of times will be better because they get into a comfortable situation that they feel safe and energized, and they want to live more days if they can. So none of this advice goes lightly. I still always, when I give this advice, I still revert back to the ethical codes for North Carolina real estate. We take ethics classes every year now. So I'm always careful to give advice, but point is, if you want to approach a seller, you need to find your own way to approach that seller. Because when the real estate broker, if I knocked on that door of that property for Mr. David, that seller would have looked at me and said, well, I'll take $500,000. And that's not going to be fair to Mr. David's mother. So anyways, good luck if that's something that you're planning on doing in the near future. I hope this advice helps you. Disclaimer is every situation is different in real estate world. These are just helpful pieces of advice to help you decide if it's something you want to do. So God bless. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel, Better Call Kent. I'm always open for advice. Please let me know if you've got any questions about real estate. I'll be glad to try to be helpful to answer them. God bless. Have a great day.